So today we're going to talk about a skill called energy management. The idea with this skill is that in order to perform really well in any area, we have to have the right amount of energy. We need to have enough energy to deal with the task at hand, but also sometimes we have to shift our energy up or down so it's appropriate for the task at hand. So that's what this lesson is all about. Okay, so let's look at our bottom line up front. Energy management helps to build self-regulation. Go ahead and circle self-regulation. That is the primary competency that we're targeting with this skill. This skill is all about recognizing where your energy is, where it needs to be, and then being able to regulate so you can get your energy where you need it. Okay? Energy levels impact your ability to perform in your personal and professional life. Okay? So think about combatives. If it's time to do combatives and you're feeling drained, if you're exhausted, are you likely to perform very well that day?
No.
Probably not. You need to have a higher level of energy so you can do well. And if you have a strategy in place, a skill in place that allows you to shift your energy where you need it to be, you're likely to perform better. And that brings us to our last bluff point here. Effectively managing your energy and performing optimally is possible, but it requires deliberate and diligent effort. So we can train ourselves in a skill that's going to help us be really deliberate and diligent in shifting our energy where we need it to be, so we're more likely to perform optimally. Okay? So let's take a look at this model. This is the thought-performance relationship, okay? It might look a little bit similar to the ATC model. So here what we're saying is that thoughts drive our consequences. And in that consequences box, we've got three different components. The first is feelings and emotions. So our thoughts drive how we feel, okay? Then we've got physical state. So our thoughts also drive what happens to our bodies. And our bodies actually respond to all those thoughts we have. There are changes in our bodies that are happening. So those feelings and emotions and those changes in our physical state, those influence how well we can perform on any given day, okay? So that's the thought-performance relationship. Now, where do you think we have some control in this model? Sergeant Van.
With our thoughts.
The thoughts, absolutely. And that's what this resilience training is all about, right? We have some control, some influence over the thoughts we have. We're going to really focus on that in some of the other skills and other lessons in this program. Today we're going to focus somewhere else in this model. So where else do you think we have some control? Yes.
Physical state.
Physical state, absolutely. So if you were really anxious, you were really worked up about something, and I told you, hey, calm down really quickly, what would you do? Yeah.
Take some deep breaths.
Take some deep breaths, absolutely. So you guys already know this to some extent, that we've got some control over our physical state. And today we're going to teach you a skill that's really effective at helping you control that very quickly. Okay, probably more so than just taking some deep breaths, okay? All right, so let's look more in depth at the relationship between energy activation, how much energy our bodies are activating for us, and how well we can perform, so the quality of performance. So let's start down here on the left end of this energy activation spectrum. So if I have a performance to engage in today, and I just don't care, it doesn't mean that much to me, there's not much on the line, my body's not going to activate much energy, okay? And what often happens is when we have too little energy activated, we don't perform very well, okay? Pushing to the other extreme, if this performance really matters to me, if I really want to do well, if there's a lot on the line here, my body's likely to overcompensate and overactivate in terms of energy. What often happens there is with too much energy, we don't perform well either. We can't control and contain the energy to perform well. Now let's look right in the middle. What's going on here is I want to do well in this performance. It matters to me, but I've also prepared. I know I'm ready for this, and my body appropriately activates the right amount of energy for the performance at hand, okay? What happens there when we've got the right amount of energy is that we often have optimal performances. So what we need to be able to do is if I find myself with too little energy or too much energy being activated, I need to have a strategy in place so I can shift back to the middle, okay? And we can do that. Let's talk about one more thing before we leave this inverted U model, okay? As we move across the energy activation spectrum, as we start to activate energy to perform, we might interpret those physical changes as us being nervous. Has anybody ever experienced being nervous?
Yes.
Okay, good. So tell me, What happens to you? What physical changes occur when you're nervous? Yes.
Sweating.
Sweating, absolutely. What else?
Your hands start shaking.
Shaking, good.
Your heart races.
Heart racing, yes.
Your breathing goes up.
Breathing increases, good. Anything else?
Just nervousness, it shows on your face.
Might show on your face, good.
Sometimes you have nausea.
Might feel nauseous, good.
And anxiety increases.
Anxiety increases, good. One more.
Your voice changes.
Voice changes, maybe some cracking, good. So lots of physical changes that happen to us when we get nervous. All right, so here's the thing. Our bodies change in ways that are actually designed to help us perform really well. Okay, so let's talk about those physical changes and how those are designed to set us up for success. So first, let's start with these two, breathing and heart rate increase. Okay, so I start breathing faster, so I'm getting more oxygen in. And oxygen is fuel, so I'm fueling my body. My heart starts pounding so that I can circulate that oxygen to the major muscle groups more quickly. Okay, so that sounds helpful, right? Absolutely. Let's look at these. These are all related to the digestive system. Okay, so your body and your brain realize, hey, if it's go time, I don't need to be worried about digestion right now. Let's take those resources and put them towards the performance. So what happens is first, your mouth might dry out. You might get cotton mouth, represented by the cottonmouth snake here. So you don't need saliva because you don't need to be breaking down food right now. All right? Your stomach decides, hey, let's hit the eject button. Everything's got to go. So one way or another, and we've got pee, poop, puke represented by the bucket. Everything's going out. Okay? And you're left with just acid in your stomach, which is butterflies, gives you that nauseous feeling. Okay? So getting rid of all that food in your body, is that going to help your performance? Sure, might be uncomfortable, but it's designed to help you. And then we have shaking and sweating. Okay, so the shaking, that's your central nervous system, even in advance of the performance, kind of kicking into high gear. So those connections are on rapid fire. That's going to help you perform well. And the sweating, that's your body kicking on the air conditioning in advance of the performance. Again, designed to help you perform well. But here's the thing. While these things are good in terms of helping you perform optimally, we can interpret them in a way that talks us out of the benefits. So you all said you've been nervous before. How many of you have ever been nervous and had a thought along the lines of, uh-oh, this isn't going to go well. This means I'm not prepared. Have you all been there?
Yes.
Okay. I have too. Once we think that, the nerves get the best of us, and it kind of pushes us over to the far overactivated end of that inverted U we looked at just a second ago. Okay? So then we're likely to not have a very good performance. But if we can interpret these things in an effective, deliberate way, if we can say, hey, this is uncomfortable, but this is what my body's supposed to do, that allows me to stay calm, to not get overly anxious, and to stay right in that just right center of the inverted U where I can likely perform really well. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So moving on from there. Before we actually talk about what the skill of deliberate breathing is, that's going to help us manage our energy and shift our energy very effectively, let's talk through the benefits really quickly. So we've got two different sets of benefits that we'll talk about. The first are recovery benefits. So if you start using this skill on a daily basis and really practicing it and training it up every day, here are the benefits you're going to get. Okay, so first, deliberate breathing induces the relaxation response. So the relaxation response is just a state in which our bodies are working so efficiently that we're not wasting energy. So we're actually conserving some energy. Deliberate breathing promotes ATP synthesis, just a fancy way of saying our muscles are going to be getting more energy. Okay? Deliberate breathing reduces blood lactate. How many of you have ever done a tough workout and felt really sore the next day or two? Absolutely. If you do deliberate breathing after those tough workouts, you're going to have less of that pain in your muscles. Okay? Deliberate breathing restores energy. So if we're getting more oxygen into our body, getting more oxygen circulated out to our muscles, we're energizing ourselves. All right? Oxygen's our fuel. Deliberate breathing facilitates healing and daily recovery. By inducing the relaxation response and turning off fight or flight, we're actually going to allow ourselves to heal faster, whether that be from injury, from illness, from a surgery, or just from daily life. Okay? Deliberate breathing helps us to manage pain. So if I practice deliberate breathing, I'm going to experience less pain in my body. I can distract myself from that pain. It helps to reduce anxiety and depression. There's actually some research out there that says, hey, if I do deliberate breathing on a regular basis, that's going to reduce the symptoms of anxiety and depression. And then the last one we have here is that it relieves insomnia. So if you do some deliberate breathing right before falling asleep, you're going to fall asleep more quickly, most likely. So lots of benefits in terms of recovery, kind of longer term benefits. But we also have specific performance benefits. So right before I'm going to go engage in some performance, if I do some deliberate breathing, here are the ways it's going to improve my performance. It's going to give me greater precision, accuracy, and motor control. So I'm going to be more in control of my muscles and my muscle movements. Can somebody think of a specific performance where that might be helpful? Yes.
Marksmanship.
Marksmanship, absolutely. That smooth trigger squeeze. You've got to be in control of your muscles to be able to pull that off, okay? If I do deliberate breathing, it's going to enhance my ability to memorize information as well as to recall that information. When would that be helpful? Yeah.
Before taking an exam or for an exam?
Good. Before taking an exam, before pitching a module as a drill sergeant, before learning material too. So as you're going into a classroom kind of setting. Deliberate breathing enhances composure, poise, and self-control. Yes?
When you're given a class,
When you're giving a class, absolutely. Or when you're being chewed out, perhaps, maybe by a commander, maybe by your spouse. Maintain some composure so you don't lash out at that person. Deliberate breathing enhances concentration and mental agility. When would that be helpful? Yeah,
Perhaps in a combat situation when your anxiety falls on the wrong side of the spectrum?
good. When your anxiety's over the top, maybe, and you need to perhaps contingency plan. Figure out, hey, I need to be mentally agile, I need to shift gears, something's not going right. Some deliberate breathing would help there too. Great. And then finally, improved reaction time from deliberate breathing. When would that be helpful? Sergeant Fields.
Why you attending a promotion board?
In front of a promotion board. Good. Being able to come up with things quickly on the spot. Excellent. So lots of different benefits, both in terms of recovery as well as specific performance benefits, just from breathing deliberately. So now let's talk about what this skill really is, what it looks like. So we've got three components for deliberate breathing. The first is to gain physical control. Okay, the way we do that is by relaxing our muscles and controlling our breathing. Okay, so as you engage in this skill and practice this skill here in a little bit, you're going to sit up straight in your chairs, you're going to uncross your legs and your arms, and you're going to start breathing slowly and deliberately, all the way down into your abdomen, to the bottom of your lungs, okay? And what that's going to do to you is that's going to make your stomach move in and out as you breathe, and your shoulders and your chest stay nice and still, okay? That's the most effective, most efficient way to breathe. Mentally, we're going to try to control what's going on up in our minds too. Let me ask you, is it easy to just turn your mind off? No. Absolutely not. That's really hard. So instead of encouraging you to just turn your mind off and have nothing going on up there, what you'll do is each time we'll give you one mental target to pay attention to. The idea is if you get 100% engaged in that mental target, you're going to have a lot less distracting thoughts coming in. They're still going to happen, and when they do, you just have to be kind of accepting and say, okay, no big deal, back to whatever my mental target is, okay? The third element of deliberate breathing is emotional control. So specifically, what you're going to do here is to insert some positive emotion, specifically gratitude and appreciation, because we know those are very powerful and they help induce the relaxation response pretty quickly, okay? So these are the three steps. You could certainly do just the breathing on its own, but you won't get all those benefits we talked about on the last two slides unless you're doing all three components at once, okay? Are there any questions? Yeah, Sergeant Fields.
Ma'am, you said deliberate breathing makes our body work more efficiently. What exactly is happening to allow us to conserve energy?
Okay, very good questions. So here we're going to go into the science a little bit of what's really going on inside of us. So in our bodies, there are these two systems that are generally thought to be outside of our control. One is called the sympathetic nervous system. The other is the parasympathetic nervous system. The sympathetic nervous system is responsible for fight or flight. So it's amping us up. It's giving us a huge boost of energy. It's speeding up our heartbeat, speeding up our breathing, so we can fight back or run away, okay? So that's the sympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system does the opposite. It slows us down, okay? Brings us back to energy levels like we had before fight or flight kicked in. And within our bodies, those two systems are usually fighting for control. It's like a tug of war match, just constant back and forth. And as they're duking it out, we're wasting a lot of energy. But when we engage in all three components of deliberate breathing, those two systems start working really well together. They're taking turns, okay, your turn, okay, my turn again, back and forth. They're no longer fighting, they're just working smoothly and efficiently together, and that means we're not wasting energy anymore. Good question. Yeah.
How many times a day or how long a day would I need to practice this skill for it to be effective?
Good question. So the current recommendation that's out there is that you engage in deliberate breathing for about 12 to 20 minutes one time a day. And your face says it all. That 12 to 20 minutes one time a day just starting out, that's going to be really challenging. So I would keep the 12 to 20 minutes as your goal, but do it in shorter bursts throughout the day. So maybe 3 to 5 minutes here, 3 to 5 minutes there, working up to 12 to 20 minutes once a day as your end goal. Good. Anything else? Yeah, Captain Smith.
Okay, so I'm not going to have 20 minutes to do deep breathing exercises right before going to the range or marksmanship. So can I do this in a minute or two and still get the same benefit?
Okay, very good question. So let's say you're about to fire your weapon for BRM. Okay, you've only got maybe 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes. You can absolutely use this skill in that situation. And it can work for you in that short amount of time, but only if you've trained up the skill already. So if you're practicing it on a daily basis, hitting that 12 to 20 minute mark every day, it will work for you in those moments too. Good question. Any other questions? Yes.
Going back to the inverted U model that you spoke about, do nerves only happen on the far right side?
Excellent question. So in that inverted U, on the overactivated end of the spectrum, is that where the nerves happen? Actually, no, they happen well before that. They happen as you start even to move into the just right zone in the middle of the inverted U. They start there, but your interpretation can keep you in that middle zone, or it can very quickly push you over into the overactivated zone. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Good. Okay. This is a skill that's going to help you manage your energy, so you have more of it if you practice it on a daily basis. But also in those performance moments when maybe you're starting to feel a little anxious, you can use deliberate breathing to bring your energy back to an appropriate level for the performance in front of you.